Hi guys, welcome to my channel. This is Tracy Ann Doss, and this video is going to be about the new documentary, aka Charlie Sheen, and it's basically a love letter to himself. If you all know Charlie Sheen, that only makes sense, right? So we're going to get into this, but first I wanted to mention that this video is for entertainment purposes only. This is my opinion, and please like, share, subscribe so I can build my community. So starting out in this documentary, we see the picture perfect upbringing of some beautiful young children in Malibu. You've got Charlie Sheen and his brother Emilio. You have Sean Penn and his brother Chris Penn, and they're all just living a very fun life of riding bikes, shooting movies, playing at the beach. And Charlie talks about this as, you know, humble beginnings, but I don't know about too many people that his father is a famous actor and they grow up in Malibu as being humble. But of course, you know, as you get wealthier and more successful in Hollywood, your homes grow. And in this case, in Charlie's defense, comparatively, it was humble. But to the rest of us folks, it was a privileged life, a life of growing up with a silver spoon in your mouth and being able to have this carefree young life is wonderful, and I think all children should have this. So this is an interesting point of the documentary, because Charlie shoots the whole documentary in a diner. It's like, why aren't you shooting your documentary in your mansion or your dad's mansion? Why in some small little diner in, I don't know. He's trying to be unpretentious, but we all know that that's really not the case. He's always been pretentious and arrogant and full of himself. There's some moments in this documentary where he gets real, but he still glorifies his childhood. He glorifies his drug addiction and has an excuse for everything. And he's not apologetic about it. He really isn't. He thinks he is the king of all partying, and he is a master at being able to handle himself. Well, as you follow the story, you'll realize he didn't handle himself really all that great all the time. So we did start off in the beginning of the movie talking about his dad. He loves his dad. He idolizes his dad, and his dad is an amazing actor, and he is the reason why Emilio and Charlie decided to go into the business, because of the lifestyle it gave them, and because, well, there is such a thing as nepotism. So for sure, if your father is a wealthy actor, producer, director, you're going to have a lot of opportunity that you wouldn't normally have. So the documentary begins with Charlie talking about his dad and Apocalypse Now and all the great movies that he was in. Very much a method actor, for sure. And there was a scene in Apocalypse Now where it was very obvious that Martin was doing some heavy drugs. And there was a part where Charlie came out and tried to kind of bring him back to reality through his favorite sport, which is baseball. But it's a sweet story, and it does make sense as to why Martin was so patient with Charlie's addiction, why he tried to be as supportive as he could, and also why he tried to cover up a lot of Charlie's moments that were just completely chaotic and out of control. So after we discuss Martin's career a little bit, we get into Charlie's, and we get into what started off as a very small time movie. It was actually the first movie that he played was Grizzly 2, which you know, Laura Dern and George Clooney were also in it, so you got to start somewhere. And in Hollywood, it's usually the horror film genre that the actors start off in. I know Johnny Depp started with Nightmare on Elm Street. That was his like beginning. So, and I think Jennifer Aniston was Leprechaun too. So this is a very common situation in Hollywood where you get your start. And when he had already signed on to the project, the producer from Karate Kid came and knocking on the door and said, "We want to offer you this part in Karate Kid." And he wanted to take it. He saw the writing on the wall. This is going to be a huge success. It was mega bucks and mega, you know, budget, and it was very different from what he had already signed up for. And he went to his dad and said, "Look, I have this opportunity. I have to take it." And his dad said, "Absolutely not. Your reputation is everything in Hollywood, and it also is a reflection of me and my reputation in Hollywood. And if you said that you're going to do something, then you're going to follow through with it. So go ahead and talk to the casting director and your agent and say, you know, I'm available in 2 weeks. Can you wait for me?" And unfortunately, they said, "No, we can't wait for you. We are going to go ahead and choose another actor." And they did. They chose Ralph Macchio, and he did really well in the movie. He was very successful and made a lot of money. But he was also typecasted, and you don't see much of him. You see him here and there, but he certainly didn't have the career that Charlie had. And so it wasn't really the wrong advice. In fact, it was the right advice, but it was very painful for a long time for Charlie, because he, you know, he would have just been catapulted. But instead of that being what catapulted him, he had the opportunity to star in a tiny little part in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which was a John Hughes movie. And those of you who were of that genre, everything John Hughes was a success. And Charlie's friend, Jennifer Grey, was a big part in the movie, and she saw this small part that was perfect for Charlie. It fit him to the T. You know, handsome, hot, party boy, bad boy. And this was the image that really was his role for many, many movies. And so he owes a lot of that to Jennifer, because she saw this part and she saw him doing really well with this part. And she arranged a meeting for him to come to the set while they were already shooting, and meet. And he did. He came to the set with his leather jacket and just that bad boy image. And John Hughes just looked right at him and said, "Perfect, we'll see you next week." So no table read, no nothing. It was a small part, but he looked the part, and he was just exactly what John Hughes had envisioned for the part. And so this was going to be his big, well, it was just going to be an opportunity to get in front of John Hughes, which is amazing. And small role, but huge opportunity. So what does he do? He shows up late, and he, you know, hadn't slept all night because he was, you know, following in his dad's footsteps as being the method actor. And it kind of went horribly wrong, because he, you know, had set his alarm and overslept an hour and a half after just pushing the pause button. And when he gets to the set, he's expecting to get read the riot act, which is what happened when Jennifer saw him. She was so mad at him for possibly screwing up this amazing opportunity that she got for him. And he gets to the set, and John Hughes is like, "Go," and he did his thing, and he nailed it. He hit it out of the park. He just threw it away. It was just simple and 100% Charlie, and this really got him noticed. Everybody was talking about it. He was just smoldering and just this hot, sexy bad boy type. And this moment was pivotal for his career. And the next opportunity that he got was with Oliver Stone. He was in Platoon, and then as Platoon is up for Best Picture, he's working on the movie Wall Street, and he is really coming into his own. What a great actor. Just so simple and just so himself, and people just fell in love with Charlie Sheen. He was just, could do no wrong in their eyes. And unfortunately, this definitely went to his head. So this is the part in Charlie's life which was a real turning point. I think all of the success and all of the accolades and attention from all the women and Hollywood did go to his head. He was very young. He was about 22 years old when this all happened, and he started partying a lot, and he started really just putting an emphasis more on the nightlife and less on his career, which is too bad because he was just on the right trajectory. Everything was going really well for him, and he was a natural at his acting. He was just an incredible actor. So unfortunately for Hollywood, I would say, not for him, because he enjoyed himself, he met Nicolas Cage, and they were growing up in Hollywood together, and Nicolas Cage's career was doing really well. I mean, both of these kids were Nepo babies. I mean, look at who both their parents are, and they just tackled Hollywood. They just partied their butts off. They were doing cocaine, they were doing poppers, ecstasy, they were drinking so much, and just every day was a party, and not a lot of sleep, just, you know, party to set, that kind of situation. And Charlie was actually going out with Kelly Preston at the time, and there was an incident with Kelly where he shot her, and it definitely made headlines. Everybody covered up for him, including Kelly, and it was made to be not that big of a deal, which, I mean, clearly it was. And even though they had everybody covering up for him, they knew that it was time for an intervention for Charlie. Things were not going in the right way, and Martin put Clint Eastwood on the phone and handed it to Charlie and said, "Talk to my kid, you're his hero." And Clint Eastwood said, "It's time to get this career of yours back on track. Things are not going in the right direction, and you need to clean up your act, and you need to go to rehab." So Charlie went to rehab, but Charlie had plans. And Charlie, when he got to rehab, he tells a nurse, "Look, you know, I have plans. My friends are all counting on me, and there's a Hawaiian Tropics contest, and I'm supposed to be one of the judges, and I need to go. And I'll give you $1 million if I don't come back at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning." And she's like, "You're not coming back at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning? Okay, I'll take that bet." And off he went, and he and Nicolas Cage and all his buddies had the time of their life, as they always did every night. And he was at rehab at 8 o'clock the next morning. She didn't get her $1 million. But he was, again, a man of his word, and he did what he was supposed to do, even though he didn't do what he was supposed to do. You know, it was kind of like getting away with everything he always gets away with, but still doing what he's told. And when he's in rehab, his agent comes to him and with his next script. So even though Charlie did have to go to rehab, the repercussions of his actions were never really harsh. They were always very, easy, and he always got away with everything. You know, this is not a big deal when he did something, because he knew everything would be fine, and he would be taken care of, and he would be covered up for, and he would be given accolades soon, and his career would be doing fine. So I think this is part of the reason why he had such a hard time staying sober, and it was fun. He was having a great time, and he, you gotta want it. You can't just have people telling you, hey, it's time to get sober. If you don't want it, you're not gonna do it. You might do it for a little bit, appease some people, but then you're gonna get antsy, and you're gonna go back to your old habits, which is what Charlie did every time until he didn't. And he was sober for a year. And during this time, was the Heidi Fleiss situation, which brought him back into the news for all the wrong reasons. His name was connected to Heidi Fleiss scandal, which was she was a madam in Hollywood, and she had the most beautiful girls working for her, and she had every single actor, director, producer in Hollywood that was looking for that coming to her. She was the one that you would come to if you wanted to party. And she had the girls and she had the drugs. And Charlie was one of her best clients. And one day he got sloppy. Maybe he was too high, maybe he was just being too lazy, but he gave her a traveler's check instead of paying cash like he normally did, and that's what led back to Charlie. They put pressure on him to roll on Heidi, and it didn't take much, and he justified it because they said, well, you never really getting her for tax evasion, and that made him feel like, okay, well, I pay my taxes, she doesn't pay her taxes, that's on her. And so Heidi ended up doing 7.5 years for this crime, and to this day, she blames it on Charlie because she never would have named his name and he would have never been involved. But again, everything gets brushed under the rug with Charlie. He always comes out smelling like roses and goes right back to his happy partying days, and that's just kind of always the way it is with him in his life. And as much of a partier that he was just more of a do lines of coke and take an ecstasy pill, and it wasn't like the serious paranoia crazy drugs until he met Sandy, who was this beautiful young woman who's also dating C. Thomas Howell at the time, and she introduced Charlie to smoking crack. And she gave him the best high of his life because she performed some favors to him while he was smoking, and he chased that high ever since. He could never quite get to that level of fabulosity, so to speak. So they say the taste of success is sweeter the second time around. So as fun as the Hollywood and the film aspect of it was just a little bit too loosey-goosey for Charlie. He needed more structure. He was just partying way too much, and he saw a real turn in his career. He was doing any old film just to pay for his drugs, and drugs had become his priority, and film became less important to him, and he knew this was not the right avenue to go. So he decided that he was going to go the sitcom route. He was going to start looking into that because it was much more structured, and you work a lot harder, there's more lines, you just have to be more serious. And he thought that perhaps this would make him party less and work more, and that was what he was hoping for. And at the same time, Spin City was a huge success. It was a great sitcom. Michael J. Fox starred in and had a lot of success, but Michael J. Fox had been diagnosed with Parkinson, and it was getting to be too hard for him to film, and he needed to step away, and they needed somebody to fill his role because the show was just too popular to just let it go. And they chose Charlie, and Charlie stepped into the role, and those were some big shoes. I mean, Michael J. Fox was the it guy. He was not just the TV it guy, but the film it guy, you know, with Back to the Future, and Family Ties TV show was huge, and he really was the major actor at the time. And Charlie was quite nervous filling those shoes, and he stepped into that role, and he was actually nominated and for a Golden Globe, and he won a Golden Globe for that. So his life started to really turn around. He met Denise Richards, and she was his kind of calming factor at the time, and they knew about that on the show, so they invited Denise to be his girlfriend on the show and just kind of keep him a little more mellow, and it just didn't really work out very well. I mean, Charlie's a party guy, and he, you know, even with a beautiful wife and 2 daughters, he just could not stay away from the partying scene. And when the show was canceled, he just used that as an excuse to just go off the rails and just go crazy. And but he also knew this was a good fit for him. He had great comedic timing, and so he was going to stick with this sitcom arena. And that's when Chuck Lorre came a-calling, and CBS wanted him for this new show called 2.5 Men. And it was actually, the idea was pitched to CBS, and they said, you know, like a Charlie Sheen type. This guy's just, you know, party boy and rich boy and entitled and arrogant and womanizer. And they're like, well, can you get Charlie Sheen? He sounds like he's perfect for the role. So they got Charlie Sheen, and he was perfect for the role. And unfortunately, the marriage with Denise did not last. He couldn't make that work. And immediately after the divorce, he met Brooke Mueller. And Brooke Mueller, when he met her, beautiful girl, was actually sober. She'd been sober for 5 years. And I believe he was possibly sober at the time when they met too. But you know, 2 addicts together, it's not a good fit. Someone's gonna relapse, and it makes it easier for the other to relapse, and that's exactly what happened. You know, Charlie heard her in the bathroom with one of her girlfriends doing lines, and he just knocked on the door and said, look, let me show you how it's done. If you're gonna party in my house, you're gonna do it right. And then he just showed him how to smoke crack. And there's a big difference in addiction from crack and just doing lines of cocaine. It's, you know, crack makes you very paranoid, and it's just such a crazy high. And, you know, their drug use became quite severe. There was some other stuff going on in their personal life. Their 2 twin boys who were born with heart problems. So there was that added stress. And, you know, Charlie just really needed some time off and to be with his boys. And 2.5 Men, directors and producers were not having that. So that did build some tension between the two, and rightfully so, I believe. You know, I mean, family should come first. They should figure out a way. You can always ride around a character for a little bit. It's, you know, it's been done before, and they could have given, you know, a couple week hiatus for the show. There's so many things that they could have done if they really cared about Charlie as a person, not just Charlie as a money source. So you know, all the stress of this, even though the boys, you know, were fine and everything turned out good for the boys, the drugs just spiraled. And there was an incident in Aspen where Brooke called the police and said that Charlie had pulled a knife on her, and that was all over the news, and it was just terrible. And Charlie's like, I want a divorce, and so he filed for divorce. And the drugs just kept escalating, and it got to the point where he was getting very just crazy and psychotic. And he was doing interviews just high as a kite, talking about tiger blood and just how he's winning, hashtag winning, and just, you know, he got just quite out of control. And he was hospitalized during this time. In fact, there was rumor mill going around that he had died, and his dad had to go make a news brief about the fact my son's okay, he's not dead, he's alive, and but he's very sick and he needs help. And it was just a really, you know, difficult time in his life. But, you know, people love to watch a train wreck, and he became more and more popular at this time. I think he got 1 million followers on social media overnight within 24 hours. I mean, that is just crazy. And everybody's like winning and tiger blood, and it was hard to watch for people that actually really cared about Charlie. And I mean, he basically became a meme and wasn't taken seriously. And this is exactly everything that his dad didn't want for the family, but cared more about his son than his own reputation. And this part of the documentary takes a little darker turn is when the Corey Haim story comes out. Now, this has been talked about in Hollywood forever. I mean, it's been discussed that in 1986, on the set of Lucas, there is allegedly a allegation where Charlie assaulted Corey Haim, and Corey Feldman came out with that information in his movie recently, but it has been talked about ever since 1986. And it wasn't just Corey Feldman who talked about this. And this is really starting to come out a little bit more in Hollywood, that there is this underlying problem. And it's really just about control. It's about scaring these kids, controlling them at a young age. And that's why you see so many problems like Britney Spears, and there's just so many of these young kids that go off the rails, and you're like, why? What happened to them? Well, this is what happened to them. And allegedly it happened to Corey at the hands of Charlie, who adamantly and denies that he ever did anything to Corey, and even says, oh, his mom said this is baloney. Well, his mom was in the casting industry for 30 years. I mean, what is she gonna say, you know? I mean, blow up her own career? I mean, she should have supported her kid, but clearly that didn't happen. So that allegation came out. Also, Amanda Bruce, who was a porn star, and there was that whole porn star era with Charlie, and he, around that time, it came out that he had HIV, and this is why he said that he was so crazy, and he was using testosterone, and, you know, all these excuses for his bad behavior, when really he was smoking crack. I'm sure there was a lot of things that added to the bad behavior, but the reality of it is it's probably not testosterone. And a lot of these women, you know, came forward and sued him because they said that he did not disclose that he had HIV and he was having sex with them. So that's really hard to hear, and he did talk about it in the documentary, which I was actually surprised, because a lot of this documentary was a fluff case, which Denise said she didn't want it to be, but of course it's going to be. What is he going to do? Talk bad about himself the whole time? But when asked a question, he was relatively open about it, I guess you'd say. Anyway, it was a really good documentary, and it was a love story to his relationship with his dad, and it was a love story with his relationship to himself. He's very fond of himself, and he's pretty unapologetic about most of the things in his life. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of remorse. So anyway, I enjoyed this documentary. Parts of it were a little difficult to watch, but you should, watch it all the way through, because the juicy stuff's at the end. And comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you think that he deserves a second chance, a third chance, a fourth chance? I mean, he certainly is a wonderful actor, and he has a great family, and he's doing the best he can. All right, you guys, love you so much. I'll see you soon. Bye.